Welcome back. If you've just joined in, welcome to Dismantling the Patriarchy. And if you've been here a while, I'm excited to see you here again. All of these videos are available on my TikTok right here, and they're also available in their full weeks on the YouTube. I also have a Patreon. If you're interested in things like that, it's only $3 a month to join in over there. A wonderful community of women. And if anything were to happen to the old tickety talk, at least we would still have Patreon over there to be in community with. So let's jump into week 4 of Dismantling the Patriarchy. This is land, body, and spirit reconnection. Why am I doing Dismantling the Patriarchy? Well, a certain somebody said that he was going to take us back. So instead of going back to more patriarchy BS and colonialism, I am going to take us all the way back pre-patriarchy to matrilineal society. But first, we have to dismantle all the programming that we've gotten. So the objective of this week is to reconnect with the earth, honor the body as sacred ground, and recognize our inseparable relationship with nature. This week focuses on healing the disconnection created by colonial and patriarchal systems that view land and body as possessions rather than the sacred entities that they are. Part 1. Understanding our disconnection from land and body. Colonial and patriarchal systems often teach us to view land and our own bodies as things to control, exploit, or own. Many indigenous and matrilineal cultures, however, have long recognized that the earth is a living being and the body as a sacred vessel. Reconnecting with these perspectives helps us honor ourselves and the natural world as interconnected and whole. I want you to take a moment and reflect on your relationship with your body. Do you view it as something to nurture, control, judge, try and fix? How do you interact with the land around you? Do you feel a sense of ownership, stewardship, or detachment? And what feelings or memories come up when you think about the land as a sacred entity, alive, as a being? So based on these questions, there's a lot of insight that we can get about how strong your colonial and patriarchy belief systems are. Starting with our bodies, do you feel, when you were asked this question, any sort of shame, judgment, aspects around your body? And I really want to be clear that this whole dismantling the patriarchy is really exactly what it is. There's no judgment. There should definitely be no guilt, no shame. We just need to see where our foundations lie. We need to see what programmings and programs are actually making our lives miserable. So with that, it's always a good idea to get a baseline. And when you answer these questions honestly, then you can get an honest baseline. Welcome back to week 4, part 2, Dismantling the Patriarchy. This week is all about our reconnecting with land, body, and spirit. And part 2 is all about exploring sacred relationships with land and body. In many indigenous cultures, the land is considered a relative, and care for the earth is integrated into spiritual, cultural, and daily practices. The Navajo, for example, believe in hozho, the beauty of harmony and balance with nature. This contrasts sharply with colonial views that land exists solely for human benefit. Similarly, ancient cultures saw the body as an extension of nature, not a separate or shameful entity, and often included rituals to honor the physical self as a means to connect with the divine. How does the idea of the land as a relative or a partner impact your view of the earth? Where in your body do you feel that question? How does seeing your body as sacred, whole, divine, not shameful, shift the way you feel about self-care and body respect? Now I want you to reflect on a cultural or family belief you were taught about the land, and then think of a cultural or familial belief about your body. How might these beliefs limit your connection to the land and your body? If you're enjoying this series so far, please hit the follow button, like, and share, and that way this message can get out to you. And also it'll end up on your feed more likely if you follow. That way you don't miss any of these weekly parts and increments. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 4, Part 3. In this part, we're going to reclaim the body as sacred ground. If you've been liking this series, please hit the follow button. If you'd like to become a part of the Patreon community, I would love to have you over there. I am also posting all of the videos in a single week on my the Tube channel. All of those links can be found in my bio, as well as I am doing 15% off of all of the products on my website right now. So if you'd like any of those, please hop over to the bio and check those out. Now we are going to reclaim the body as sacred ground. I want you to identify a body belief. I want you to write down a belief or a judgment you hold about your body, whether it's your body should look a certain way, aspects of trying to control or manipulate it, short hair, wavy hair, curly hair, the things that we have been taught to judge about ourselves, to try to contort ourselves to look a certain way. Write down a belief or a judgment you have. 2, reflect on the origin of that belief. Where or whom did you get this belief from? Was it influenced by media, family, societal expectations, all of the above? Next, we're going to challenge the belief. What would it feel like to release this belief and see your body as a sacred and whole temple, vessel, being, just as it is? Where in your body do you feel that release? Where in your body do you feel that being escaped from? Write down that part of the body. Next, we're going to create a new belief. Write a belief or a thought. It could be an affirmation, but again, affirmations don't necessarily work a lot of the time until you truly get rid of the shit underneath it. I always say affirmations are like putting whipped cream and ice cream on top of a pile of shit and expecting the shit not to be in there. We have to dismantle the foundational beliefs before we actually integrate something new. So if you're still getting resistance to that initial belief, you need to do a little bit more work after this video with it. So write down a new belief system. My body is beautiful. I'm whole just as I am. I don't need to fix myself. I am a sacred vessel worthy of love and care. Maybe even just something simple that you do believe. My body deserves good rest. My body deserves something wholesome and nourishing every day. Do something really practical rather than something that would throw you into like, nah, I don't believe that. This is really important. Next, we're going to ask a few questions. How does it feel to reframe your relationship with your body? Does it feel like something that's possible? Does it feel like it's going to take more time than just a single video? These are all comments that I would love to hear. That way I can really share content to help you specifically. What sensations arose in your body when I was asking you these questions? What part of your body went ding, 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 write that in the comments, because I think you'd be surprised how many people have the same parts. How might your life change if you treated and created space for your body with the same reverence that you would for sacred land? Do you have any reverence for sacred land? I think these are all really important questions, because when we look at something, if we were to go into a church, or if we were to go onto sacred land, or if we were to go into a awe-inspiring piece of space in nature, I want us to really reflect and have that same awe and reverence for our own body that we do for these other spaces. And it'll take a little bit of time, but that's okay, because when we start a daily ritual or practice of this, that is when the change really takes place, and it's huge and magical. So thanks for being here. I'll see you soon. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 4, Part 4. So in this part, we're going to do a grounding meditation and connection with the earth. If you're able to do this outside, even better, but if not, we'll go through it and you'll be fine just as you are. Begin by finding a comfortable position. Take a deep breath. Exhale fully. Imagine a warm golden light, similar to the one that's right behind me, emanating from your own body, extending down into the earth. As you imagine this golden light, imagine that it almost has like tentacles, and it moves through the floor, however many layers are below you, down into the surface of the earth, all the way down into the soil, becoming one with the soil, the rocks, and the roots beneath you. Visualize yourself standing in a forest now, a desert, or a landscape that resonates with you. Sense the earth's energy rising to meet you, connecting you with all living things. Again, keeping those tentacles deep into the earth below you, feeling that pulse or that rhythm of the earth. Repeat silently or aloud, I am one with the earth, and the earth is one with me. When you feel ready, you can bring your awareness back, carrying this connection with you. You don't need to unground. You don't need to pull those tentacles off or out or back into your body. Grounding can have lasting impacts in the way that you feel. It can help with stress. It can help with feeling lost. Doing a simple grounding exercise can really bring you back into your body and actually feel reconnected. How did it feel to ground yourself and connect with the earth this way? Do you have a regular grounding practice, or was this your first time? What emotions or thoughts surfaced during the visualization? What landscape did you choose? And you can always watch this video and choose a different landscape to see if that helps with your connection better. How can you integrate this feeling of connection with nature into your daily life? I really love doing this practice actually right before bed. While you're laying down, if you imagine that as you're laying, just tons of light roots are coming out of your back and going into the earth. And then I like to also visualize that the tree of life is coming out of my heart space, and the branches are branching out and touching all of the celestial bodies. This is a really powerful way to have balance of as below as above as below. It's a really great way to connect with the cosmic energies as well as the earth, and it's just a delightful practice to do before you sleep, really helping you get deep, restorative, restful sleep. Let me know how you like this and any thoughts that you have. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 4, Part 5. If you're new here, welcome. All the other previous videos are all on my TikTok. And if you've been here for a while, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. In this part, we are going to do some practical reprogramming. We're going to establish a reciprocal relationship with the land. I want you to choose a small act of reciprocity. Select one act of reciprocity to honor the land this week. such as picking up litter, leaving an offering, planting a tree, or just spending some meaningful time in nature, not just taking, but actually imagine and with the intention of sharing your own energy where it might be needed. Observe your intentions. Before acting, reflect on your intention to connect and give back to the earth, letting go of any sense of ownership or control. I want you to notice how this act makes you feel and how it shifts your perspective on the land. Especially if you were to choose, maybe a piece of land that you kind of just walk by unobserving every day. It could be really helpful to have a very intentional and budding and building relationship with a piece of land that you literally come into contact with all the time. How does it feel to offer something back to the earth without expecting anything in return? What insights arise as you cultivate a reciprocal relationship with the land? And how might cultivating this relationship shift your daily actions or habits? Hopefully, you can create a little bit of mindfulness about how you're going to be spending your money on Christmas presents this year. Are you buying sustainable fabrics? Are you buying a lot of plastics? Keep these things in mind as you're also doing these intentional daily practices. Our actions are much louder than our words. And so creating and cultivating a time of awareness around what it is that you're consuming, how it is that you're consuming, and what the impacts those are going to have long after you're gone on the earth. That could even be an act of reciprocity. Making conscious, aware decisions about your everyday movements and how those will impact the earth, and subtly, or, big, make changes and shifts to actually implement these. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 4, Part 6. This is the historical context. Women as the goddess personified in pre-patriarchal culture. This is vital for us to really get a clear understanding of how drastic the change was from the matrilineal societies to the patriarchy. In pre-patriarchal societies, women were often seen as earthly embodiments of the goddess. Marriage, sexuality, and rituals honored the feminine, not only as life-giving, but as sacred, a reflection of nature's cycles and Earth's fertility. This reverence for the feminine as divine reinforced a relationship between body, spirit, and land based on harmony and respect, rather than ownership or control. Let me give you some examples of sacred feminine embodiment in pre-patriarchal cultures. In Sumer and Mesopotamia, sacred marriage rituals. In ancient Sumer, the sacred marriage was performed annually between the high priestess, representing Inanna, the goddess of love, fertility, and the king, representing Dumuzi. The ritual symbolized the union of divine, feminine, and masculine forces, embodying abundance and fertility for the land and people. And I will actually have a first-hand account of a former lifetime as Enheduanna in my book coming out, with specific rituals and words and all of those kinds of things. So women as priestesses, high priestesses like Enheduanna, she is the earliest recorded author. She held significant spiritual and social power, representing the goddess herself. They were seen as channels of divine energy and held authority that was both respected and central to their cultures. In the Minoan Crete society, another lifetime that is going to be in my book, it was a goddess-centered religion. The Minoan civilization was known for its goddess-centered worship, as seen in artifacts depicting women in sacred rituals, often with symbolic animals like snakes or doves. Women were priestesses and leaders, and their bodies were celebrated as sacred, mirroring the cycle of nature. Sacred body art and rituals. Women adorned their bodies with intricate jewelry, headpieces, and gowns during rituals. emphasizing the embodiment of the goddess. These bedazzleds were not to make them more beautiful, they were to represent the fact that they were the goddess embodied. These practices honor the body as a channel for the divine, a concept that was gradually erased, and then there was this appearance or this need to be something other than what you were or are. In ancient Egypt, Isis and Hathor, goddesses like Isis and Hathor, were celebrated as archetypes of love, wisdom, and motherhood. Egyptian queens and priestesses often represented Isis and performed rituals invoking her protective and nurturing qualities. Women in Egypt could hold titles such as God's wife of Amun, a role granting significant religious and political authority. Marriage in ancient Egypt was also seen as a spiritual partnership, with both partners often depicted in art as equals. Women were revered for their roles in the family and community, embodying the life-giving and protective powers of the goddess. In Indus Valley civilization, the divine feminine in daily life, little is directly known about the religious practices of the Indus Valley civilization, but figurines and seals suggest the worship of a mother goddess linked to fertility and nature. Women's bodies were celebrated in art and life with strong emphasis on reverence for the feminine, likely extending to marriage and communal rituals. Archaeological evidence suggests that women also held central roles in agriculture, reinforcing the connection between the feminine and Earth's abundance. This relationship emphasized respect for the land, with the feminine seen as both nurturer and guardian. Often, matrilineal societies, of course, are in indigenous cultures, Aboriginal cultures, Inuit cultures. In many Native American tribes, including Cherokee and Iroquois, women were seen as keepers of the land, the lineage, and the family. The Iroquois Confederacy was matrilineal, with women serving as clan mothers who chose and could dispose of male leaders. This balance emphasized the feminine as a guiding force in both governance and spirituality. Marriage as a partnership was seen as a partnership within the larger context of community as well, with respect for the autonomy and wisdom of women. The feminine was considered sacred, often seen as a representation of Mother Earth herself, a protector and a life bringer. In ancient Celtic cultures, their tradition was a sovereignty goddess like Iru, Banba, and Fodla. Probably messed those up, personified the land. They represented the earth's fertility, and kings were symbolically married to these goddesses to legitimize their rule. Women, as daughters of the earth, were seen as channels for the goddess energy and power. The feminine body was celebrated through ritual and sacred adornment. Again, when we're practicing makeup and jewels and jewelry and adorning ourselves, it's not to make us something that we are not. It is literally the way that we remember that we are the goddess. Celts practiced elaborate rituals to honor the land, and women's roles in these rituals were revered. Their union with nature and fertility was not only respected, but deemed essential for societal harmony. How does learning some of these aspects of the feminine in these ancient cultures kind of impact your view of femininity and the body? I'd like for you to connect or reflect on one quality or value from one of these cultures that resonates with you, whether it's a partnership, a respect for the earth, being seen as a sacred goddess, sacred sexuality. How could you bring this value more into your life? Now I want you to create a personal ritual. Choose a value from these historical practices that resonates with you, such as one of the ones that we just mentioned. Create a simple daily or weekly ritual inspired by this value. This could include adorning yourself with something meaningful, really, anytime you get ready, really embodying that goddess energy, performing a grounding meditation in nature, or honoring your body with a nurturing practice. Notice how this practice feels over time. How does it impact your connection with yourself and your perception of your body? We've got an extra little special section this week all about the original definition of the husband. So technically, in Dismantling the Patriarchy for week 4, this would be part 7. If you are enjoying this series, please hop over to Patreon and join there. It's under Magical Mothering, and that way we can stay connected if anything is to happen here in TikTok land. That way we can stay a part of this community. And if you haven't seen my other videos, I am wanting to create a matrilineal society in some way, shape, or form in actual real life. So hit that follow button, hit the like button, share it with people who you think might be interested. And let's jump into the original definition of husband as servant and steward. The term husband originally referred to someone who tended, nurtured, and protected the land, animals, and family, aligning closely with the concept of husbandry, the care and management of resources. In pre-patriarchal societies, the husband was seen as a caretaker or servant to the bride, and by extension, the land, which was often owned and managed by women. The root of this relationship was a mutual one. Men took on roles that involved stewardship, respecting women as the landowners and primary keepers of the family. This is a powerful reminder that the origins of marriage as a union of service and respect rather than ownership and control. In many of these early societies, it was men, not women, who would leave their families to join the women's households, integrating into a matrilineal system where women held primary connections to the land. Because remember, in the previous section, we talked about that women were the embodiment of the goddess and the embodiment of the land. So women bearing children and being fertile was a direct correlation to the land being fertile and bearing crops and goods and fruits and being productive or producing offspring. So all of these things got twisted and turned throughout time. So we have a few examples from ancient cultures as the husband as the steward. In Norse and Celtic cultures, matrifocal, which is obviously the focus is on the matrilineal line, marriages in Norse and Celtic cultures, marriage often meant that men would leave their families to join the household of the bride. This practice reinforced the idea of the husband as a supportive presence, with his role being to protect and provide. And serve within the family led by his wife's lineage. Land stewardship, the term husbandry or care of land in these cultures applied to the care of land and animals, which husbandry still means the care of animals. So the word husband came directly from the aspect of husbandry. The role of the husband was to work on and manage the resources of his wife's family with the responsibility to preserve and nurture the land's fertility and well-being. Early indigenous communities. Women as landowners in many indigenous cultures, particularly among matrilineal tribes, land was passed down through the mother's line. So when the woman gave birth, early anthropologists, I'm throwing this in here as well, early anthropologists were mostly men, not until in the 1800s when very few, 1 or 2 anthropologists who were female would visit these indigenous cultures. They had the correct words and would learn the word for womb or vagina or cunt specifically so that they could find out whose children were whose. Because so often in indigenous cultures, everybody's auntie, everybody's sister, everybody's brother, everybody's an uncle. You have grandmothers. And so these women anthropologists would find the word out for the female reproductive spaces so that they could actually find out who birthed who, because it was all about the matrilineal lineage. Husbands were expected to support and steward this land rather than control it, respecting the lineage and legacy of the wives' families. In these communities, marriage was a partnership of roles. Men were often hunters, builders, and spiritual protectors, while women were keepers of the home and hearth, the land, and the family lineage. Husbands served by protecting and maintaining resources, reinforcing the woman's connection to the land. Ancient Mesopotamia and Sumerian society also had some aspects of husbands as stewards. In early Mesopotamian society, especially in sacred marriages like those of Inanna and Dumuzi, who she was a goddess and he was a god, husbands were seen as supporters of the goddess, embodying a role of respect and care rather than authority. Marriage rituals centered around honoring the goddess and the land, with the husband serving to support the feminine's prosperity and fertility. Again, a direct connection between the female lineage and the land. Another one, men worked the land and raised animals, but did so in a way that honored the land's owner, the wife's family. The husband's role was therefore not one of ownership, but of respectful management, aligning with the concept of husbandry. Let's go into a few questions. If you have a journal that you're using for this series, get that out and let's answer some questions. How does understanding the original meaning of husband as caretaker and servant of the bride shift your view on marriage and partnership? In what ways does this model challenge or align with your current ideas of marriage and partnership? Reflect on a quality of partnership that resonates with you from this historical model, either mutual respect, stewardship, service. How might you bring this value into your own relationship? Let's identify an area of service or stewardship. I want you to reflect on a relationship where you could embody the qualities of a caretaker or steward. This could be a friendship, a family relationship, or a partnership. We're going to choose a small act because I think being in the patriarchy, if we are an example of what we desire in a partner, oftentimes that can be reciprocated and mirrored much easier rather than telling our partner what we want. When we show them in a way that they can mirror those qualities, oftentimes you get a lot more change much quicker. So we're going to choose a small act to show respect or service in our relationship, honoring the concept of mutual care and stewardship rather than control and exploitation or expectation. This is huge. Notice how this act of stewardship affects your relationship and your sense of connection. How does it feel to practice this role from a place of mutual respect and service? I would love to hear what you chose to do. Stitch this video if you'd like to share kind of how you're embodying and actually implementing some of these techniques. I would be so happy to see that. Thanks again for being along for the journey. And I really am so grateful to be able to share all of these resources with you.